If you're wondering how you can build a community or become a part of a community while being an introvert, stay tuned. I'll tell you how I did it, going from 0 to 15,000 community members on Instagram. Hey friends, so I often share that I am an introvert. Most people don't believe that. And I think there is a term called introverted extrovert, a person who likes to be to themselves. I'm really cool at home. Like right now, going through the quarantine, everything. I'm chill at home. Look at this office. My big red chair. I have a TV over here. Like, what do I need to go outside for? I work from home. That is such a blessing. And I can entertain myself. I think one, loving yourself is like the most important thing, and being able to entertain yourself and being good company to yourself. I do have my family home. I love spending time with my husband. It's been a great opportunity for us to like date each other and spend time together and really hash out the business. My two daughters are home. My daughter Sonia, who's 17, and my daughter Stephanie, who's 22. They're home, but they're pretty much to themselves, trying to figure out how to navigate themselves in this thing that we're going through. And so when I talk about being an introvert, so many people are like, "Yeah, you're not an introvert." Well, this is the thing. I talk about my age often. I am 50, so I have lived 50 years, and I've been through a lot of stages in my life, of course, right? When I was really young, I was really quiet. I didn't like to be around people. My favorite place was to be in a closet with a flashlight reading a book. I'm a book lover to this day. I can really just like kind of stay on my own, and the time could pass and I not be aware of what's going on. But then as you get older, you start building relationships. You have to figure out how to make friends. I've been married 3 times. If you don't know that, I have 5 children. So of course, I've been out in the world. I worked in corporate America for 12 years, and I stayed home with my children for 8 years. But in the midst of that, I built mommy groups and business groups. I had 2 businesses. I had to I was a vendor. So every Saturday I would either sell like my desserts. And then as years went on, every weekend in the summer, spring and summer, I would do vending events selling my crochet design. So I had to meet people. I've been a manager and a supervisor. So I've had to talk to people. But for the most part, I'm to myself. And so everything that you see about me may seem like I'm so like out there, but the reason why I am is because I'm constantly pushing myself. So the first thing I will say, the way to build a community when you're an introvert is to step out of your comfort zone. Like, beyond anything else, you have to really try to do things that you don't feel comfortable about and you don't think that you can do. So back there on my wall, you see that red frame with the flowers. That is the quote that I live my life by. You must do the thing that you think that you cannot do. You must do the thing that you think that you cannot do. That's Eleanor Roosevelt. And that's what I live my life by. It's on my vision board table. It's in things that I write down. It's in my phone somewhere, and I come back to it every single day. When I think that I can't do it, when I feel like I'm going to fail, I tell myself to just step out of my comfort zone. And if you've listened to the podcast, or if you've watched the YouTube channel, or if you follow me on Instagram, I continually say, you have to step out of your comfort zone in order to achieve anything. But in order to step out of your comfort zone, you have to take the first step. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you a few things, well, not a few things, everything that I've done to build a community. Now, on YouTube, you're called subscribers. On a podcast, they subscribe as well. On Facebook, there's people who are liking your page. On your regular profile on Facebook, they're following you. On Instagram, they're followers. I don't consider anyone to be my follower because I'm not your leader. I may be a leader in certain things in life, but I'm not your leader. So my verbiage is community member. You're my community member. So I have 15,824 community members as of this date, and it is May 4th, 2020. This time last year, I had probably 700 community members. Just like everyone else, I went from 0 to this 15,000. It's all happened organically. It's all happened by accident. It's all happened, I don't even know how it happened, because I'm just me. I'm special, and I'll never take that away. I am a special person. Leslie Tucker is special. She's phenomenal. She's weird. She's organic. She's different. You know, I'm black. I have big lips. I have bald hair. So that is the obvious. And so for people who don't believe that they're special, I'm here to tell you that you're special. Okay, so to build organically, just be yourself. So this is 0 to 15,000 from golly. I really started building my community January 2019, and here we are, it's May 2020, and it just keeps getting bigger and it just keeps getting better. So let's talk about some of the things that I've been doing, and I'm gonna look down because I wrote some notes. You know, I'm 50, I'm going through perimenopause, so bear with me. But this is what I did. And the first thing that I had to do is I had to decide why I wanted to meet people. You know, the goal was not to build a community at all. I was working. I live in the state of Delaware. I met my husband Thomas online. I was living in Philly. I decided that when we decided to get married, that I would move here to Delaware, start new, bring something different into my children's lives, different schools and things like that. So from city dwelling to suburban dwelling. And so I found a job as a cook, and then I became a worker in a lunch cafeteria, and then I was promoted to supervisor, and that's what I did for 2 years. By the time I was 49, the stress of it all was too much. So I decided that I could build this reselling business full force. So 2 years ago, April 2018, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go full time and I'm going to really work. By August 2018, I was able to send my letter of resignation in. Most of you know this story, but I'm leading up to why I started looking for a community. So as I'm working 60 to 80 hours a day, I'm not realizing that I'm literally alone. My husband's here, my children are all going to school or working, but I'm literally by myself. I left work, realized that people really weren't my friends, straight up acquaintances. Every now and then we have a drink or whatever. So it didn't hit me until literally the end of the year. By December 2018, when, you know, sales after the Christmas holiday, sales started kind of slow down. And I was like, I am so by myself. I don't have anyone. And so I had to figure out, like, what can I do? And I was like, you know what? It's about 500 people on my Instagram page. Can I in some way reach out? So I knew YouTube was the way to go, because that's how I kind of really got into like knowing who other resellers were. They were doing videos, but I didn't want to do like hauls and things. I really was like, can I find some people who are like 40 to 50 so that I can communicate with? And that really was my goal, because I was looking for friends more than anything else. I've always been quiet, introvert, so I don't have like childhood friends. My husband does, literally people he grew up with from the time that he could walk. And I didn't, because I moved around so much growing up that I just never met anyone that I just click with. So I had no friends. My family's all over the place. So I had to figure out, what can I do? So I sat down one day after like telling myself for 2 weeks that I was going to do it, literally in the second week of January, and just sit down and made a YouTube video. It's somewhere on my YouTube channel, right? And I just talked about, hey, I'm Leslie Tucker, and I just talked for 20 minutes. I just talked about myself. And then I started building up and doing like some YouTube videos, not really haul videos, but just kind of showing you some of the things I was getting from the bins and things like that. Some things that I sold. I talked a little bit about myself. I started encouraging you. And then I figured, you know what? On Instagram, I have some people, because on YouTube, you're starting from nowhere, right? You don't know if anybody's watching you. So on Instagram, I was like, at least I know 500 people. So I found this thing called IGTV, 10-minute videos. Now, it took me a week to kind of figure out like how to make sure my videos stayed under 10 minutes. I already talk fast. I'm from Philly, so I'm a fast talker. My hands move. I got the whole thing going on. So that was like so incredible for me that I could make these videos on Instagram. And they instantly started resonating with people. Even the videos that I did on YouTube, people would leave me comments there, or they would send me DMs and say, oh my gosh, I'm like totally 40 and I have 5 kids, or whatever their situation was. And then like friendships were born. Amazing, right? So my goal again was to meet people. Community again wasn't on my mind. After making videos, I started following people who were using like relevant hashtags. So I was a reseller, right? I knew more about reselling than I knew about like, okay, just like Poshmark or whatever, even though I was selling on Poshmark, but I knew that that's what we were doing. So I just kind of started hashtagging reselling. At the time I was selling on Depop. So I was hashtagging Depop and kind of listing some of the things that I was selling on Depop, and people were, starting to follow me based on the hashtags I was using. And then I would follow hashtags. And then once I found people based on the hashtags, then I would start like commenting on their posts and sending them DMs and just introducing myself, just like a whole like process of like meeting people. In a sense, it was kind of almost like online dating. I don't know how many people have dated online. That's how I met my husband, online, So it was the same kind of process, kind of like putting yourself out there and introducing yourself, and kind of like what I do now continually is like an education every single day, about 10 to 30 minutes a day, just going through the feed, seeing who did what I did. And it totally surprised me that so many people were resellers, like out in this big world, like all over the world, not just in the United States. So hashtagging and commenting and slowly following people, like, you can get overwhelmed if you just follow. It's not really good to follow people just because. It has to be something that really jumps out. So I really go by people's like feed, and that's how I still find people today for the podcast. I look at their feed, and if something interesting, like if they're dancing or if they have a YouTube video that interests me, if they show their family, that is what I go, wow, I really want to get to know that person. So then that's why I follow them and comment. So again, I commented on people's posts based on search. I started searching for local people. Didn't really find that many local people until I started doing some other things. I'll get into that in a minute. I started making YouTube videos. I said that already. So I started watching videos on YouTube on how to grow my Instagram organically. Organically is the key. You don't want to pay for any bots. You don't want to pay for somebody to share for you. You don't want to follow to unfollow. There are a lot of people who do that. It's very disappointing. I try not to do that. And back then I didn't know you could only have a limit of people that you could follow. My thing is I like people, so I'm not like, I never want to just be that person who has these followers and I'm only following 200. So I try to give back what I get, but then I had to start being like particular because there are people who can be a little different, who send you messages and they want you to buy and they want you to buy. They'll follow you so that you can follow them back, and then they unfollow you, or they try to sell you like a program to follow. So it's been a lot that I've learned in the process of trying to build a community and make friends. The other way that I grew my community is hosting events. So in January of last year, I really didn't know a lot of information about Posh and Sips, right? I didn't know what a Posh and Sip was, but then I started doing the research. I went to Poshmark's website, and then I found a restaurant that I wanted to host. I didn't realize that I could have just did it at a cafe or something, but I just went big the first time. So I set a date. It's actually coming to be a year when I had my first Posh and Sip, May 9th, 2019. And then I went onto the Poshmark app and just started looking for people locally and sending them messages. And I mean, I probably contacted 1,000 people, but 25 people came out. I started a Facebook group. That was another thing that I did, and started meeting people all over. What else did I did? I started attending more local events where I started connecting with people. So that's what happens. You attend events, right? Then you give people your card, and then they may know you because you're on Instagram or you've already friended them. And to me, local events are Philly. Like they're really, I don't even think I've never been to a Posh and Sip other than my own in Delaware. I've been to Maryland. I've been to Philly. I attended Posh Party Live in Philly. It's 35 minutes away from me. It's my hometown. And then I really started getting the bug of being around people. And I saw, gosh, this is my tribe. These are people that I want to connect with. So I attended Posh Party Live in New York. Then I attended Posh Fest and really got a chance to meet like a lot of people. The humbling experience is that people knew me. So as you meet people, your numbers start to grow, right? So again, my social media started to grow. I answer the one of the keys to my success is really interacting with people. So if people aren't really sure which direction to go in, you have to interact for people. Organic reach, being transparent, allowing people to know you. You have to really like talk to them. So I answer every single DM that comes into my DMs, every single question that people send me. Now, I will say this, from the beginning, I used to answer every day and really get in depth and everything because I was just talking to people. It wasn't even about growth. Again, I wasn't even looking at numbers or trying to achieve a certain amount of number. But then as you start getting a little bigger, you have to figure out where your time is going. But what I do is I answer every DM. I'll tell them how to find something. I'll connect them with other people, and I'll give as much information as I can. It's not going to take up all my time, but I still communicate every single day. It's really important for me. I create funny memes. So you see people creating memes, and in the beginning, if you scroll through my Instagram account, you'll see that I had some memes where it's like a basketball player and some different things. But then I said, you know what? I'm gonna create my own memes, right? So I use Canva. That's where I create all of my own digital products and documents and things like that, my posts. So why not create my own memes, right? Created a Bitmoji and then throw some extra things in there, and people see my cute little Bitmoji sitting at the desk on the podcast and things like that, right? The other thing I did, April 26, 2019, I just celebrated a year, is I created a podcast. I didn't know what I was doing. Found an app called Anchor, and I said, hey, it doesn't cost me any money, so here we go. Don't need headphones, don't need a mic. You can do all that. I have a mic, I have headphones. But I just started creating content that I wanted to hear and that I wanted to put out. I don't know everything, but I know a little bit about something. So I just started a podcast, and it's grown, and that's how I've met people. And then I started reaching out and asking people if they wanted to be interviewed. That was another way for me to step out of my comfort zone. And that helps me memory-wise because I'm going through perimenopause, but it also allows me to meet new people. And the way that I function is I meet people exactly where they are. I don't judge. I don't get into anything controversial, anything political. I'm just me, and I allow them to see that. So I create such a like transparency, right? So I think it's like really cool that you meet people that you otherwise wouldn't meet, and then you realize they're just like you. And that is one of the successes, the keys to the success of growing a community organically, right? Let's see. I talk about business and diversifying and how to create multi-streams of income. I think that's really important. People want to hear that, like how they can do other things aside from what they're just doing. There's nothing wrong with reselling, but the world is so uncertain. Life itself is so uncertain. So I talk about like what you can do. If you have talents, do you speak another language? Are you a teacher? Taking what you already have and growing it into another side business. Hey, it's okay to have tons of business, right? Multi-streams of income. But I also talk about creating products that will continue to pay you, right? Create some affiliate links, create some digital products. You create it, you put it up on your website or wherever you're going to put it, and you create it once and people continue to come and pay. I wrote an ebook, like can't beat that, right? I talk about crafts. I create crafts. I have been a baker for years. I've been baking since I was 6 years old. I've been a crochet designer. I crochet. I've been crocheting since I was 14. But I also talk about that. I talk about like learning how to crochet and how I started a business just from making my children's clothes because I didn't have a lot of money. And then friends started saying, oh, can you make this? Can you make that? So while I was home with my children and even working small jobs in between, I could fall back on my baking. Man, I could make 10 cakes and that would, help me pay my rent. I could make some gloves and mittens. Back then, my children were in preschool, so it used to be little mittens with the string that goes through the coat. That's how I got started. Colorful hats and things and scarves and stuff like that, and cows. And so if you have a talent, you never know where you can make money. My goal was never to start a business doing these things. But yeah, here you go. I made a business. So Now I've been painting pants. So now I see people doing that. People were already doing that, but when they saw that I was like, oh, cha-ching, I gotta sell. Then now they send me DMs like, how you do this? Where are you selling at? Hey, I have a website. I sell on Etsy. I sell on Poshmark. I sell on Mercari. You never know where you're going to sell something, and you don't know until you try. So this is me just being organic, showing you everything I'm talking about now is how I've built my community, how I've built a community from 0 to 15,000. I'm transparent. I give love, and I love to receive love. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. It says, it says, so really just being my true authentic self is how I've grown my community. And the last thing that I want to say about that, you're different than I am. You may not be willing to give everything. One thing, I don't talk about my finances and how much I make. I think that's very personal. There are some people who do that, and that's what they're analytical, and they want to share that with you. I won't do that because that is not what I'm trying to get out. What I'm trying to get people to understand is we all start at the beginning. We all have challenges. I talk about getting a mammogram. I talk about going to the doctor for your physical. I talk about my daughter who has health challenges. She has hydrocephalus. I talk about my daughter who's on the autism spectrum. I talk about my concerns about my son who is in the military. I talk about marriage. I talk about life. I talk inspiration. I'm motivational. That is me. That's Leslie. Leslie, a reseller's passion. I talk about everything I'm passionate about. My name, a reseller's passion. I'm a reseller, and I talk about all the things that make me who I am. And that's how my growth has happened. And the final thing that I want to say is I do everything I do with grace and the heart of an introvert. So if you're an introvert, you can do this. You got this. Take one step at a time, come up with an idea, and one day just be brave, put on a clean shirt, and sit down and just start talking. So if you've gotten this far, I say I love you, friends. I thank you so much. If you like the content that I put out, hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell so you can get reminders, and also give me a thumbs up. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for being part of my community.